Welcome to this explainer. Okay, think about this for a second. Every single day, businesses meticulously track their operational costs, their supply chains, their marketing spend, literally down to the cent, right? But imagine having a massive, hidden leak in the plumbing of your house, and instead of finding the cracked pipe, you just keep paying a higher water bill every single month. Well, that is exactly what's happening right in the middle of corporate scaling today, and it's centered entirely around your biggest expense, your payroll. It's this continuous, completely invisible drain on resources that most leaders honestly don't even realize is happening right beneath their feet. To really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this problem, we have to look at the macroeconomic black hole. Get this, $8.8 trillion. According to recent 2024 data from Gallup, that is exactly how much is lost globally every single year just to employee disengagement alone. I mean, that's not just some minor inefficiency or a slight rounding error. It is a staggering cost quietly eating away at margins everywhere, leaving massive amounts of capital on the table.
So this brings us to a really critical question for any business leader. You know your overhead, and you absolutely know your revenue. But do you actually know what your payroll is producing? Most executives, they have mountains of workforce data. We're talking annual engagement surveys, turnover rates, training hours, performance reviews, the whole shebang. But they completely lack a reliable way to turn that abstract data into a precise, actionable financial figure. You know what your people cost, sure, but measuring exactly where their performance breaks down, that's a totally different challenge.
And honestly, the reality here is sobering. The average organization is losing anywhere from 22 to 35% of its total payroll to recoverable performance leakage. Think about that for a second. That means, in a best-case scenario, you're only getting about 65% of actual productive output from your entire payroll investment. That missing 35% isn't just evaporating into thin air. It's slipping through the cracks of your operational systems, lost to inefficiencies that, for some reason, have just become accepted as the normal cost of doing business.
Let's break down the 4 invisible suspects that are actively stealing from your bottom line right now. First up, disengagement. With 62% of the global workforce disengaged, it's draining up to 20% of your payroll. Second is failed training. A massive 80 to 85% of all corporate training literally fails to transfer to the job, and that wastes up to 9% of payroll. Third, bad hiring. Nearly half of new hires fail within their first 18 months. And finally, poor appraisals. Managers are wasting hundreds of hours a year on these subjective systems that actually end up reducing performance, costing another 3 to 7% of your payroll. It really adds up.
But here is the absolutely crucial takeaway from all this. This isn't actually a people problem. It's a measurement problem. You really don't need more workforce data or, just another generic employee survey. What you need is a diagnosis. Because without knowing exactly where performance is breaking down, any intervention you try, whether that's some shiny new training program or a culture initiative, is really just a very expensive, well-intentioned guess.
Enter TOPS, the Total Organizational Performance System. This is what completely changes the equation. I want you to think of it like a highly advanced forensic diagnostic tool, but for your business. It's a methodology designed to tell you exactly how much of your workforce's potential is actually converting into output. And, even more importantly, it pinpoints the exact systemic or operational roadblocks that are stopping the rest of that potential from being realized.
At the very core of this methodology is an engine that synthesizes 3 critical elements: your psychometric data, external industry benchmarks, and your own internal HR data. By fusing all of these together, it generates one single integrated performance index. Now, this index is a real game changer because it reveals your exact payroll leakage in strict, hard financial terms. Usually, this exposes a massive 10 to 30% recovery opportunity that was completely invisible to you before.
So how do we get that highly accurate single score? Well, the system relies on 3 data streams that you likely already have sitting around, but have just never successfully combined. First, brief psychometric assessments that capture human capability. Second, objective role benchmarks from ONET, which is the world's most comprehensive job database. And third, your live operational HR data, stuff tracking tangible outcomes like turnover and absenteeism.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. You might assume this requires months of complex IT integration and hiring a massive consulting team, but it doesn't. Phase 1 actually delivers a board-ready benchmark diagnostic in just 2 to 4 weeks, and get this, with zero IT setup required. It gives you immediate directional insight,
Then, whenever you're ready to scale things up, Phase 2 fully integrates into your existing systems to give you continuous, real-time monitoring of your return on investment.
What I really love about this framing is the sheer power of the intelligence it provides. It actively separates your people problems from your systems problems. That is huge, because it ensures you're investing your capital and resources into fixing the actual root cause, rather than just putting a Band-Aid on the most visible symptom. It takes all that messy, disjointed HR data and translates it seamlessly into ranked, high ROI actions that your board can actually execute.
Let's talk about the actual financial impact here, because the numbers are frankly staggering. For a typical company with about 3,000 employees, recovering just a highly conservative 10% of their identified performance leakage generates a massive 466% return on investment. No way, right? But it's true. It is an incredibly fast path to cash-positive recovery, effectively paying for itself in barely 2 months.
If you want to see these exact financial numbers modeled for your own company, the TOPS ROI calculator streamlines the entire process into 4 super simple steps. Literally, you just enter your basic headcount and salary data, review the applied industry benchmarks, set your own conservative recovery targets using some easy sliders, and instantly view your projected annual savings right there on the dashboard.
In under 60 seconds, this tool models your projected annual savings without any of the usual guesswork. It brings total financial clarity to a massive blind spot that has likely been invisible to your executive team for years. It finally allows leadership to quantify the gap and make strategic, hard-hitting decisions based on real evidence, not just intuition.
So, knowing all this, we have to face facts. Silent performance leakage is actively draining up to 1/3 of your payroll right now as we speak. But the data exists to find it, measure it, and recover it. So the only remaining question for us is, will you continue to blindly absorb this massive cost year after year, or will you take action and finally fix the leak?